So I was watching the original Rush Hour recently, the 1998 film, starring Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker. But one thing definitely struck me as a bit odd. There was one particular scene when they're in the Fu Chow restaurant, and they're sliding down the stairs. He does slide on the table, and the bad guys are chasing them. They're loosing rounds like there's no tomorrow, and yet not one of them actually gets shot. They fire off at least 12 to 13 rounds in this small confined space, and no one gets shot. So it got me into thinking about why are bad guys so bad at shooting people? I mean, they're the bad guys. They're supposed to be good at this kind of thing. So I did some research online, and after a bit of typing away, I found something called the principle of evil marksmanship. Now, this isn't saying that marksmanship itself is evil. This is a principle saying that antagonists are only good as a shot as the plot allows them to be. So during a fight scene, the antagonist will be only as good as the plot allows him to be, or as incompetent as the plot allows him to be. For example, marksmen in action films almost never hit the main character. And that's mainly due to the fact that if the main character did die, it's only ever because his death somehow advances the plot. Think about it. If all evil characters were such good shots, and they picked off the heroes in the first 5 minutes, where'd the rest of the film be? You'd end up with a Megamind-like situation where the antagonist just spent a good hour and a half of the film just bumming around doing whatever they want, doing evil. There'd be no one around to stop them because they died off in the first 5 minutes. So they're generally only ever capable of hitting the target when that character's death or whether the character either serves no purpose or the character's death actually advances the plot. The other thing I also realised was that there's also something else called the one-at-a-time attack rule. Now, you've probably seen this in quite a few films where the hero is surrounded by villains, and yet, instead of doing the logical thing and attacking him all at once, they go in one at a time. You get one sort of just shuffle in and in a bit of a fighting pose, while the rest of them sort of huddle round and jeer, or look like they're going to do something, but never actually do anything. And this always confused me. Logically, it would make far more sense for them to instead charge in all at once. I mean, surely even then, they would have a chance of taking out even the mightiest of heroes. But no, they just surround them, and then one by one, walk in and get clobbered. The other thing I learned while doing this research was that there is actually something also called the Stormtrooper effect. Now, this is probably exactly what you think it is. You've all seen the Star Wars franchise. You all are familiar with notoriously how bad of a shot a Stormtrooper is. But yet, they're not always depicted as such. For example, in the first Star Wars film of the original trilogy, when the Stormtroopers first board the Carillion Corvette that's carrying Princess Leia, they are depicted as being ruthless and effective. They blow open the airlock hatch, bust in, shoot everything in sight, and lay waste to all resistance. So where was this for the rest of the films? I mean, they are depicted as possessing overwhelming numbers, military-grade hardware, discipline, a full-body armor, and yet, at one point, even Obi Kenobi comments when they're looking at the destroyed Sandcrawler that the weapon blasts are too precise for Sand People, and that it must have been the work of Stormtroopers. And yet, only a short while later, while trying to free Princess Leia, do we see, again, their overwhelming numbers, but their complete ineptitude at shooting the heroes. You see them, they're clustered round, they're blasting away, and yet they can't hit anything. The shots are going wild all over the place. And yet the heroes just pick them off one by one. And so despite this, we see them defeated easily by the protagonists due to their complete lack of ability to hit anything within this sort of cone of fire. And later on, we not only see them attack the rebels with full force, but we see them get defeated by what is essentially a teddy bear with sticks. A teddy bear with sticks and a rock. And an entire army is wiped out because of them. It boggles the mind at the ineptitude that would be required in order for this to take place. And so, what do you think? Do you think it's a good thing that villains are such bad shots? And if so, why? Leave a comment down below.